Women who produce for their families and communities are treated as non-productive and economically inactive. The devaluation of women's work and of work done in sustainable economies is the natural outcome of a system constructed by capitalist patriarchy. This is how globalization destroys local economies and destruction itself is counted as growth. And women themselves are devalued. Because of many women in rural and indigenous communities working cooperatively with nature's processes, their work is often contradictory to the dominant market forces of development and trade policies. And because work that satisfies needs and ensures sustenance is devalued in general, there is less nurturing of life and life support systems. The devaluation and invisibility of sustainable regenerative production is most glaring in the area of food. While patriarchal division of labor has assigned women the role of feeding their families and communities, patriarchal economics and patriarchal views of science and technology magically make women's work in providing food disappear. Feeding the world becomes disassociated from the women who actually do it and is projected as dependent on global agribusiness and biotechnology corporations. However, industrialization and genetic engineering of food and globalization of trade in agriculture are recipes for creating hunger, not for feeding the poor. Everywhere, food production is becoming a negative economy, with farmers spending more to buy costly inputs for industrial production than the price they are receiving for their produce. The consequence is rising deaths and epidemics of suicides in both poor and rich countries. Economic globalization is leading to a concentration of the seed industry, increased use of pesticides, and finally, increased debt. Capital-intensive, corporate-controlled agriculture is being spread into regions where peasants are poor, but until now have been self-sufficient in food. In the regions where industrial agriculture has been introduced through globalization, higher costs are making it virtually impossible for small farmers to survive. The globalization of non-sustainable industrial agriculture is literally evaporating the incomes of third world farmers through a combination of devaluation of currencies, increase in costs of production, and a collapse of commodity prices. Farmers everywhere are being paid a fraction of what they received for the same commodity a decade ago. In the U.S., wheat prices have dropped from $5.75 to $2.43. Soybean prices have gone down from $8.4 to $4.2, and corn prices went down from $4.4 to $1.7 per bushel. In India, coffee prices have crashed from 60 rupees to 18 rupees per kilogram, and the prices of oilseeds have declined by more than 30% in the past year. The Canadian National Farmers Union has put it like this in a report to their Senate. While the farmers growing cereal grains, wheat, oats, corn earn negative returns and are pushed close to bankruptcy, the companies that make breakfast cereals reap huge profits. In 1998, cereal companies, Kellogg's, Quaker Oats, General Mills, enjoyed return on equity rates of 56%, 165%, and 222% respectively. While a bushel of corn sold for less than $4, a bushel of corn flakes sold for $133. In 1998, the cereal companies were 186 to 700. In 1998, the cereal companies were 186 to 740 times more profitable than the farms. Maybe farmers are making too little because others are taking too much. And the World Bank report has also admitted that behind the polarization of domestic consumer prices and world prices is the presence of large trading companies in international commodity markets. While farmers earn less, consumers pay more. In India, food prices have doubled between 1999 and 2000. The consumption of food grains in rural areas has dropped by 12%. Increased economic growth through global commerce is actually based on pseudo-surpluses. More food is being traded while the poor are consuming less. When growth increases poverty, when real production becomes a negative economy, and speculators are defined as wealth creators, something has gone wrong with the concepts and categories of wealth and wealth creation. Pushing the real production by nature and people into a negative economy implies that production of real goods and services is declining, creating deeper poverty for the millions who are not part of the dot-com route to instant wealth creation. Women, as I have said, are the primary food producers and food processors in the world. However, their work in production and processing is now becoming invisible. Recently, McKinsey Corporation wrote a report that said American food giants recognize that Indian agribusiness has lots of room to grow, especially in food processing. India processes a minuscule 1% of the food it grows compared with 70% in the US. It's not that we Indians eat our food raw. Global consultants fail to see the 99% food processing done by women at household level or by the small cottage industry because it is not controlled by global agribusiness. 99% of India's agro-processing has been intentionally kept at the small level. Now, under the pressure of globalization, things are changing. Pseudo-hygiene laws are being used to shut down local economies and small-scale processing. In August 1998, small-scale local processing of edible oil was banned in India through a packaging order which made sale of open oil illegal and required all oil to be packaged in plastic and aluminium. This shut down tiny ghanis or cold-pressed mills. It destroyed the market for our diverse oil seeds: mustard, linseed, sesame, groundnut, coconut. And the takeover of the